Hello everyone and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is My Friend Scott. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. And I just want to say happy holidays to everyone. If you celebrate Thanksgiving or not, I hope you have a great Thursday. Now, let's get to this nightmare. It's been 13 years since I've heard from my childhood friend Scott. Scott was my neighbor growing up and my partner in crime, until his father lost his job as an executive for a company that was going under in our hometown. Scott and his family lost everything and were forced to start living on their savings, which didn't last long. Before we both knew it, they were moving to a more rural and cheaper city to live in, and started over in a small apartment. I sent Scott off with some of my things, and the promise to stay in touch. But I broke that promise. Today, I was cleaning out the attic for my mom. My father passed away recently. He had been in relatively good health, but had contracted a nasty virus and was unable to fight it off. We were sorting through his things and donating much to charity, reminiscing on the man we dearly missed, when I found them. A stack of letters tucked neatly in a binder of Pokemon cards called to me. Mostly, I wanted to check out what finds I had curated in my younger days, until I realized the letters were from Scott. I took the binder home with me, along with a bottle of my father's favorite whiskey, made a fire, and got to reading. As I fingered open my first letter, a photograph fell out. A tiny boy with olive skin and messy black curls leaned against a taller ginger boy with wire glasses and a smirk, who was pointing to something in the trees behind him. A tree house our fathers had built together for us. I choked up a little and began to read. May 14th, 2008. Dear Ren, we just moved into our new apartment, and I finally got my room set up. Thanks for giving me your old bunk bed. I took out the bottom bed and put my desk there. It makes my room so much more spacious. Luckily, I don't have to go to school for the rest of the year. The school district said it was too late to start the semester. Early summer. Our apartment is pretty small and pretty dull. My parents had to sell my Xbox 360 for the security deposit, along with all of my games. But they said they'll give me a new one when things are better. So I don't have a lot to do these days. I guess I could read, but you know how I feel about that. The leaves wandering around outside, which is what I'm about to do. Smell you later, Ren. Right back soon. I'm bored to tears. Peace. Scott. May 28th, 2008. I just got your package, man. You did not have to send me your old Game Boy. Mom has been on a cleaning rampage. She says one of the guys who lived here before us must have been a smoker, which makes her mad. But I kinda think it's cool. Mom and Dad hate living here, but I think it's alright these days. Maybe it's a bit of a dump, but it's cool to live somewhere where people had their whole lives stretched out, and now it's yours. I wonder what the people who live here after us will think of us. How are they gonna picture me? Will they know I'm 14? I've been taking your Game Boy to this pond behind the apartment. It's really cool. I can actually see it from my bedroom window. It's quiet there. I crank up the volume and blast Pokemon. I like to pretend a Magikarp is gonna leap out and splash me. When you come here to visit for my birthday, can you bring fishing poles? You and I can fish and see if we can catch one. I miss you, man. I wish I could show you the pond now. Right back soon. Scott. June 5th, 2008. Ren, your letter came quicker this time. It made my day a bit better. Today has been lame. It's cold and rainy. Mom and Dad were fighting about money again. I didn't want to be inside, so I took an umbrella and went outside to watch the water. But something happened. My hands are still shaking from what I saw. It's like the water was blacker than usual, filling the landscape with dark shadows, dancing across the field, surrounding the ichor like water. When I looked to the center of the pond, there were little white dots swirling around and bubbling, emitting steam from the oil like water. Then I heard it. Greetings, I heard in a low voice from the pond, and I fell on my ass. I began to slide away rapidly, forcing myself to my feet and hurtling up the stairs to the apartment complex and bursting into my small apartment. Dad could barely stop his insults that were flying at my mom at 60 miles an hour to notice I'd come into the space and dash into my room. I barged to my window and slammed the curtains shut so that I wouldn't have to look at the pond. I don't know what to think of this. Man, was it all a hallucination? Like maybe a heat stroke? I'm just gonna go to bed after I send this to you. Please write back soon. Scott. June 14th, 2008. Ren, you're right. It's probably all a dream. Still, I don't feel comfortable going out to the pond. When I'm at the window, staring into the inky black water, I swear the ripples make it look like the pond is smiling back at me. It feels like it wants me to swim in it, but I have a long list of things I'd rather do than swim in that cesspool. I'll have you know, I met a girl in this apartment. I know you'll be so jealous when you read this. Her name is Meadow, and she is the coolest girl I've ever met. She said her brother was going into trading cards and gave me his old ones. There are some great cards in his set. I wonder why he was okay with her giving them away. Makes me glad I have no siblings. Since you gave me your old Game Boy, I'll put a couple good cards in the envelope for you. Scott. June 25th, 2008. Ren, it's been almost 2 weeks and no word from you, man. Did you get my last letter? Hope you did. There are some cool cards in there. Anyway, in case you didn't, I met this girl Meadow. She gave me some old trading cards. Well, turns out her brother went missing 3 years ago. Crazy, right? No one knows where he went. He was hanging out by the pond one day, watching the water, and when Meadow went to get him for dinner, he was gone. Vanished. No trace of the guy. Gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about it. How are you, man? How's your summer? I wish I could get a letter from you. It feels like I'm drifting off into nothingness with Meadow and that creepy pond. I've never felt stuff like this before. Please write back. Scott. August 27th, 2008. I get it, man. I'm not cool enough for you anymore now that I'm not around, right? You could have said something. Meadow ditched me too. Some loser from the trailer park across the street is her new best buddy, and I'm yesterday's news. I started drinking the murky pond water. It came to me in a dream, and told me the waters of its unlife would pour through my soul and purify it. It all makes sense now. You, Meadow, Mom, and Dad are all too weak to withstand the waters of life pooling in the pond. I'm going to have to drown them in it to make them see, and when I'm done, I'll drown you in its purifying water. December 18th, 2008. Mr. Hadley, my name is Teresa. We've never met, but I just moved into this apartment and found the correspondence between your son and the previous tenant's child. I looked up your address and thought it would be kinder to write you rather than your son. Along with this letter, I'm sending your son's Game Boy and these trading cards. Your son might want them to remember his friend. Unfortunately, the previous tenants had moved on following the death of their young Scott. You see, the pond behind our apartment complex had a brain-eating amoeba in it. that Scott contracted after swimming in the pond. The landlord informed me of this when I moved in, as they had to disclose this kind of thing to new residents when signing a lease. Tragically, Scott's brain deteriorated and he became paranoid. He believed that the pond was speaking to him apparently, leading to him drowning a fellow resident's child. Following this, he was arrested and hospitalized, but it was too late. Scott passed on sometime in September. You might want to leave out some details until your son is older. He's just a boy, and I don't think it would do him any good to hear that something like this happened to his friend. I'll pray for your family, and you'll be glad to know the pond has been filled in. With thoughts and prayers, Teresa. I snapped back to reality and realized I had finished that whiskey my father loved so much. I can see why the man was always nipping at it now, rereading the letters. I figured I must have stopped replying sometime in June, or Scott didn't have the wherewithal to respond to the letters I had sent. I have no idea which is the truth. After a surprisingly short internet search, I found an article from 2008 validating what the stranger had said in her letter. For one reason or another, my father had taken all of my letters, and I'd never noticed. He'd hidden all of this away from me, but obviously wanted me to find out the truth eventually. Part of me is glad, but mostly, I wish I'd never learned what became of my friend, Scott.